Hello friends, welcome back to DIY guitar making. I'm here at the shop. Actually, I'm standing in the room where I apply all my True Oil finishes, and I've got guitar number 86 here. If you guys have been following the channel a little bit, you've seen a lot of videos with this guitar. Western red cedar top, wangy back and sides. And in between working on these coats here, I have actually been getting a lot of work done on guitar number 87, which is the second Parlor guitar that I'll be making. So this video is going to be all about what I'm doing with that guitar right now, which is binding. Let's go check that out. Alright, so here she is, guitar number 87. I don't know if you can see that on the label in there. Very similar guitar to the other one. I didn't want to go out on a limb too much with this guitar because I'm still kind of testing out this prototype of a Parlor guitar because it's something I want to continue to make into the future. I want to have sort of a consistent model that I do for these Parlors. So there's a lot to sort of R&D out with this. All right, but let's take a look at what we're doing here with the binding. So this video is going to be more about installing the bindings and less about setting up and cutting your binding channels and things like that. Because I've talked about that in a lot of other videos. You can always look back in my catalog of videos to see more on cutting the binding channels. We will talk a little bit about dealing with the purfling and connecting miters and making everything, all your lines, seamless. On this particular guitar, I've got a back stripe with two purfling lines on the sides there, and I have purfling along the binding as well, and there's side purfling that has to connect with the purfling lines along the end wedge. So there's a lot of miters to consider sort of all at once. You can see one of the miters right here, and you can see how that connects. That's what we're after. That's our goal. That's a pretty seamless one, if I do say so myself. The one up here, you can see not quite as good as the other one. On the top, as you'll see, it'll be a little bit different. We're going to have dyed fiber strips. So I've got maple on the outside, so those aren't dyed fiber strips on the outside. That's what gives me the white. But then on the inside, that blue obviously is a dyed fiber because you don't really get a blue like that naturally. Same as we have here in the Rosette. Those purflings are going to connect. We're going to have a little butt joint between the two purfling strips here, just like we have a butt joint for each of the side strips. So on the top, you can see I've already got my channels routed out, both the purfling ledge and the binding ledge. I used a grommet and an 1/8 of an inch chisel, just those two tools, to score and shape this area right here. Because if you look closely here, you can see that the end wedge sits up just slightly higher than the surrounding binding ledge. And there's a tiny angle that I cut with the chisel into the purfling line, the maple purfling line there. And the reason that is because our purfling strip, we want to come right up to that line at a 45-degree angle and then stop there rather than having our purfling line run all the way across. Now we could have the purfling line run all the way across. It's kind of a lazy way of doing it. It's certainly easier. We don't have to do any of this handwork here that I did. You can just run your router bit right across and then install your bindings as normal. And I've seen a lot of guitars done like that, but more so in the sort of home-built amateur world. So it just kind of sets you apart for sure to do it the quote-unquote right way and actually miter those lines running across. And so again, the way to do that, or at least the way that I do, is I route my bindings really close to the end wedge, but then stop short of it and set up a grommet to be as accurate as I can in order to score out the material, which I then remove by hand with a chisel. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a little heads up as to how we got to this point right here. So first things first, I've got my pre-bent purfling elements right here and my pre-bent binding, which I bent all of these on my side bending machine. That just really helps with the process. There's a lot of purfling materials, especially I'm thinking of the kind of stuff that you would buy from Stu Mac or some place like that, where you don't even need to bend them prior to installing them. They're flexible enough, and this is fairly flexible as well, but hey, it never hurts. In fact, it helps quite a bit to give them a little bit of a bend. Makes the whole job easier and can make your binding job more seamless and gap free. We first have to just trim these up a little bit so that they will meet appropriately, because both of these represent half of the top. We need them to line up with the center line at the end wedge. So I'll do these one at a time here. What I'm going to do is dry fit this starting at the waist. Take a little piece of tape, and this is just a dry fit, which means no glue. So I don't need to use anywhere near as much tape as you're going to see me use with the glue. The center is right here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that center line onto the purfling. Okay, and on the other side over here, it really doesn't matter all that much where I trim this down to, because it's going to be hidden underneath the fretboard tongue. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball. I don't need to run all that tape out. I'm just going to eyeball where it needs to go, and I'm even going to make sure that I cut it a little bit short of center, just because there's no need to have my two pieces made up perfectly. It's a lot easier if you just give it a little extra space there. Carefully take the tape off. And by carefully, what I mean is you want to roll the tape at a low angle. Okay, don't just pull it straight up. It has the tendency to take fibers off with it if you pull it straight up. But if you pull it at an angle, nice and low, doesn't do that. And now let's dry fit and mark up the binding strip so we can appropriately mark where we want to cut on the side purfling and on the ebony binding as well. So I'm going to mark the center line onto the ebony. And then I'm going to mark where I need the miter for this side purfling to be. And so, just to make the point again, you can just run your binding right across like this. It doesn't look terrible, but I think it's a little more appropriate to trim that back and have your miters meet. What do you guys think? And once again, on the fretboard side, I can be a little more cavalier about how I mark this. And I'm going to mark it with a little extra space. And then I can even just nip that off instead of cutting it with a handsaw, because the cleanliness of the cut doesn't even really matter. It's all getting covered up by the heel and by the fretboard tongue. So I've set up a miter box here so that we can make clean and square cuts. And we'll go ahead and start with our purfling strip. So I'm just going to line up my mark right there. And I'm going to clamp this with spring clamps. And I like to get the clamps pretty close to where I'm cutting. Otherwise, the material is flexible and it makes it hard to actually cut all the way through, because the saw begins to bind up as the material flexes. Okay, so that is the end wedge miter, or I'm sorry, not miter, the end wedge butt joint. And then on the other side, once again, I'm just going to nip it because this is the side that will be hidden. And now the binding strip, line that up. Okay, so this is the end wedge side. Now all we have to do is I'm going to put this in a little vise and trim back the purfling with a chisel right to that miter line that I made. So we'll load this up in my nut slotting vise here. Works good for that. Or any kind of jeweler's vise would be appropriate. They make these really small vices with tapered back jaws just for fine work like this. It's great for like doing inlays, nut slotting of course, any detail work. And so I'm going to use a good sharp chisel for this. Not a bad idea to just hit it on the strop before I begin, which just takes any pre-existing burrs that occur naturally from using the chisel. It knocks those burrs off, keeps the edge fresh. And my purfling is standing up here. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's on the top side, and I'm just going to trim that back very carefully. I don't want to take off the ebony, I just want to take it right down to the ebony. Let me pull my pencil line onto the top so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, and this is a little bit of, carve and check. So I'm gonna trim away close to that line. When I get right at the line, I won't necessarily eliminate the line right away. I'll actually take this out and check it, because if it's already good, I don't want to go too far. Okay, I think that's good. Moment of truth. Okay, so that miter looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see that, but the question then becomes, does the black portion, the ebony portion, the main portion of the binding, does that meet at the center? And it does not. I still have a little ways to go. So all that means is that I want to take another nip or two at the side purfling here to walk that meeting point where the miter is back just a hair, which will allow the ebony to move forward just a little bit. I already think the angle that I cut that purfling strip at was good. That looked good to me. So as I'm cutting this, I'm just going to eyeball the angle that I have and try and maintain it, but simply walk it back. Okay, wow, that miter looks great. And now if I look over the top, yeah, the binding strip is on center. Okay, so the finicky part is over, and now we are ready for tape and for glue. So I always like to position my first piece of tape, just my first piece. I'm not going to put a whole bunch of pieces of tape down, but just the first piece. It makes it a little easier to get everything on there if you position the tape on the side like this and just let the top part kind of flop over. That way we're ready to go. What we're going to do is install our glue in sections here. We're not just going to run the glue all the way across it, because it takes a little bit of time to get all the tape on there. So it's better to go about 8 inches out, run your tape, then run the glue another 8 inches, run your tape, and on like that. Just clear this glue bottle. I like to use these glue bottles that I got off of eBay somewhere. I don't know, some scientific supply or something like that. Anyway, it's just a bottle with a more narrow aperture, which I use for all sorts of things, but particularly with the binding channels, it's a help here to get your glue in the right place. Now, with that said, we do actually want to be pretty generous with our glue because we're not going to spread it around with our fingers or anything like that. We're just going to make sure that we apply such a generous amount of glue that we expect just the pressure from the tape to squeeze and spread that glue all around. Yes, it will make a mess. It's not a big deal to scrape off after the fact whatever glue squeeze out you have. Removing with my thumb some of the glue squeeze out right at that miter, just so I can see it and verify that it is right on. And then I want to make sure the purfling is right on. So this is kind of the hardest part, is just making sure you get this first piece of tape on with everything lined up at the joint. Okay. All right. And now each piece of tape I place basically right adjacent to the previous piece of tape, leaving about a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch of a gap, just so that I have a little peephole to monitor my progress and see if I'm having some issue, there's gaps there or anything like that. And the way you apply the tape, you first place it on the side, make sure it's on there nice and good, and then you're going to press the binding and purfling combination both down and across at the same time, and then ratchet the tape over the top. It's all about that leverage you get by ratcheting the tape over the edge. And that's basically it. That, in a nutshell, is installing binding with mitered purfling elements. If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.